Welcome to That Moto Show with Dirt Bike TV's Jake Clark and producer Donnie Bales.
All right, number 9 of our tech podcast. It's moving right along. Been having a good time this winter. Now it's into spring, and Supercross has been amazing. It's been fun to watch, huh, Donnie?
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it. I like the last race. I don't want to get too deep into it, but some of the tracks I feel were a little too simple.
Well, part of the rain is a factor when they're having to deal with that. But then the ruts themselves have become a huge thing. This one will be on before the next race. But anyway, so it's like we're over halfway through, and it's been awesome. So yeah. I enjoy watching Supercross. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I have a whole ritual to sit down and watch it. It's like a cone of silence. I don't let anybody talk to me in the living room, and I just watch.
That's cool. So we're on Saturday. A few Saturdays we've been working in the shop while the race day live is on during the day, and then we just roll right into. So it's like we got hours.
Kind of nice. I like early. This is the first year they've had this many early Supercrosses, right? Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
Pretty much every round is pretty early.
Well, they changed the start time normally from 7 to 5.
Exactly. Yeah,
I like that.
It's awesome.
It's way cool. Okay, so this show's a little bit different. We're gonna do a couple different things, but first of all, we're gonna have another factory mechanic. We're gonna bring in a younger guy who's new to it, but been working hard. So we'll bring him in here in a bit and introduce you to Kyle. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to have a tech tip from you guys. So if you guys send me in a cool tech tip, I'm going to showcase it. And I got one to go over right now. So we're going to go over this one, and it's about this. You know what this is? It's called batting. And so I got a really cool follower that wrote us, and his name's Edu. He's from South Africa. You know that place, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Says I watched a lot of your videos and helpful. I thought this might like this hack. A friend of mine came up with this idea to add extra filter material to the airbox out of our dirt bikes. So the material we buy in rolls at the pet shops. So I guess they use it at pet shops too. But it's used in upholstery, and when you make blankets or anything like that, they put it in between to give you that deal.
They probably put it in the bottom of cages in the pet shop.
Yeah, it says it comes in 18 to 20 millimeter thicknesses, and then they just wrap it around the air filter in their bike. And these bikes were YZ250s from what it looked like in the photo. And I have the photos here to show you what they do. And the big thing is they just wrap it around there, and he says when it gets dirty, they just chuck it, they just throw it away because it's pretty cheap. They just throw it away, and then they can get longer life out of their filter the rest of the day, right? And they're riding in a lot dustier conditions than I would ride into. The big thing is they said it has no effect on performance as it lets air through with ease. He says, I hope you find this valuable. He wants me to send him some FMF caps to South Africa. So unfortunately, I don't know if that's something it's in our budget.
Yeah, in the budget, and also how does that work with customs and all that?
I don't know.
If you're importing hats for somebody.
So unfortunately, I appreciate the tip. And now we have run filter skins over the years, different things, but some of them on the fuel injected bikes did feel, especially on a 250F, did feel restrictive. It did feel like it held back power. And on the dyno, there's no denying that bikes want more air. So even with no filter oil, no air filter on there at all, typically, they're happy. So you want to be careful, but also, like, if these guys are riding in dusty conditions all day long for a huge deal, doing this and pulling this out 3/4 the way through the ride and you can finish the ride, that's pretty huge. So
when's the last time you rode in dusty conditions?
Yeah, we just typically don't. It's very rare. We do some, but we gap out so big that we're not really in it that much.
Right. Or you're the leader.
Or the leader. Spencer's out front. So far, I'm not really catching his dust in the summer months. So if I start to catch his dust, then I just come back.
Do you remember that transition?
Yes.
The transition from when you used to be the leader to now Spencer's the leader?
Right. And he's been leader for
it's been a long time.
Since he was probably 17, 18 in that.
Might be younger than that.
Yeah,
depends on where we were riding.
The trails, and now he does all the mapping with Onyx and any other.
It's kind of nice leaving it up to somebody else.
It is, and we're going to do a big Dual Sport ride tomorrow, and he's got to map that out.
Nice.
So
hey, it's nice having Spencer back for this show.
Yes, I missed the show. I was sick with illness.
So he's all better.
Feel better now.
Nice, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then now I got one other comment here that I learned this week. This is from Wyatt C. He had a 2023 KX250X, same as a 250, regular 250. It had 56 hours on it, and I got photos here. And what you can see is in the cylinder, there's little indentions in the cylinder. We thought for sure his cylinder was ruined, but in the cylinder, at the top of the cylinder, where the pistons, where the rings don't go, there's actually little cutouts for valve relief. So pretty strange, something we learned on the Kicks 250. So if you pull one of those apart, I've never seen this on a 4-stroke cylinder, but it's cut right in there. You can see in these photos. All right, so that's a cool thing we learned this week. Totally surprised when he bought a brand new cylinder and same cutouts there. So that was a trip. So anyway, now it's time to bring in our factory mechanic here for the day. He's going to be answering some questions with us. We'll learn a little bit more about how he got into it for those guys that are wanting to learn the trade. His name is Kyle Defoe, and we're going to bring him in right now. All right, so we got Kyle Defoe here, who's what I call a younger mechanic, like comparatively speaking, right? So let's talk real quickly, kind of talk about what got you into wanting to be a mechanic. And you didn't grow up in SoCal, right?
Not correct.
Right. So you're not around the epicenter. And so where you grew up, tell people where you grew up and what brought you out to California and, what motivated you to really want to do this.
Yeah, so I grew up in a little town in North Dakota. It was about 350 people right on the Canadian border. One guy in those 350 people happened to ride motorcycles. He invited my family up to a local Canadian race, MMA. I was probably 8 years old then, and from then on, my mom and dad thought it would have been a cool family hobby. So I raced from the age of 8 to 20, 21. That's all I knew how to do in that span of time.
Do you have siblings?
I have one brother, yep.
Did he ride as well?
He rode and raced as well, yep.
The last guest we had, his brother was really fast.
Nah, he was okay. He's not so fast, though. I'm just kidding. No, Jade rips. But yeah, so, we did it. It was very casual for fun. There was no stress or no pressure. But at the end of those 10 years or so of racing, you had to make a decision what you're going to do with your life. And that's all we had done. So I figured the next best thing would try be a mechanic. I always idolized all those guys that I work with now, like Carlos and...
were you working on the bikes as a teenager?
Working on them, you would...
were you picking up stuff?
He was applying stickers.
Yes, I was applying stickers. I was 30 minutes later, I would have my tire changed with a few pinch tubes and a couple screwdrivers.
What level did you get to racing?
I raced like local pro, so I was able to, get some small checks. I paid my rent in Arizona, actually. I lived in Arizona. I went to MMI.
Okay, so let's go back then. So then you decided, hey, I'm gonna be a mechanic. So then you decided to go to MMI. How old were you when you decided to do that?
I was 18.
Okay.
My mom was a school teacher, so she kind of told me like, hey, if you're gonna really do this, you need to, and you're gonna leave the state of North Dakota, you need to try get an education with it as well. She was fine with me going to MMI. It's not really a diploma type thing. It's more of a certification. So, but she wanted me to make sure I, had an education, some type of an education, and wasn't kind of just bumming around. So yeah, I went to MMI when I was 18. I left 3 weeks out of graduating high school to go.
And then you went right to summer in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, I went. And being from a town of 350 people, going to a big city is a huge culture shock. So everything, traffic, 4 lanes of traffic. And my town had one stop sign. Right. That was it.
No stop light.
No stop light. We were the last stop before Canada. So we had one gas station where the trucks could fill up. That was the only source of food in our town. Wow. The closest grocery store or gas station was 75 miles away besides that, one way.
Was there a border crossing at your town?
Yes. It was the main port to get into Manitoba.
So that would be a big employer. I mean, the guys had to work there.
Yeah.
The what do you call them? The border guys.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of.
And what's the name of the town?
Pembina.
Pembina.
Yep. And then the next town above us in Canada is Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Now, you weren't riding in the winter at all. Did you guys try arena crosses or any of that in the winter?
Yep. We had, at the time, it was called the Sandbox. It was in New Richmond, Wisconsin. That was a huge drive for us. So that was a big treat in the winter. We had a few, Red Horse Ranch. They're kind of horse arenas that you would make into supercross tracks.
Yeah.
We had that. that was still a big treat to do in the wintertime as well, because then your dad had to get your bikes out of storage and your fuel, your carb was gummed up. We didn't know how to put stable or anything. It's just very primitive form of racing that we did in the wintertime.
Right on.
Did you ride snowmobiles too?
Yep, I rode snowmobiles. I rode snowmobiles to work or to school. I worked for the city at the time, so you rode it to your the city shop. That was like our trail system in the winter there is pretty much like highways, stop signs, yield signs. So
Nice.
you rode snowmobile to the closest towns, quite common. And
So tons of kids were riding snowmobiles to school.
tons of kids. It was snowmobile
The rich
parking.
kids had snow cats.
Yeah, had the nice ones. Yeah. If you were one of those guys, you'd made it. Your father was a farmer.
Well, tell us about this experience at MMI then, when you get down there.
MMI was really cool, honestly, for me, and being so sheltered in the
Yeah.
Midwest, having to get experience to see. I'd never seen a dyno before I went there, or somebody truing a crank or something like that. So the exposure that I had there was unreal. And for me personally, it was very useful. You got to build cranks. You got to, they show you how to time cert helicoil. Like, I didn't know how to do that properly before. So you got to mess stuff up to fix it on purpose.
Yep.
And same as the dyno, you got to hopefully not blow an engine up.
So would manufacturers donate bikes? Is that how it would work?
I believe they did, yeah.
I think they had some sponsors, that would help.
Or
So-
do you guys go to the junkyard for bikes too?
No, they were all brand new. Everything that we worked on it'd been taken apart quite often, but it was all brand new equipment.
And how long was the whole schooling?
Depending on how long you wanted to stay there, you could take electives, which were the manufacturers, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki.
Specific.
Yes, specific. It was about 2 years. I was there for about a year and a half. I just took 2 electives, Suzuki, which they accentuate on suspension, was why I took it, to learn some more about that. And then Kawasaki, you got to work on watercraft and the diesel mule. So that's why I chose those 2 manufacturers. But you also had Yamaha, which you got to work on snowmobiles, little bit on snowmobiles, and then like Harley and stuff. Honda was big. You got generators and everything. But about a year and a half to 2 years.
And with that, you can do some student loan stuff, right? Because it doesn't fall into it was a trade school. You can do some student loan stuff?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did student loans. There was, it is a bit steep for a type school like that, but I mean, the experience that you get there's no other place you can experience that.
No, and I know, like, in our niche of motocross, supercross, there is a guy out there in West Virginia, Scotty. What's his name?
Scotty Adkins at SXMX Tech.
He's doing some that are specific to moto.
Yes.
Whether you're going to be an amateur guy or be a pro one mechanic.
Thank you.
So there are some other options. Now, what you did is much broader. You're able to learn way outside of. You're able to earn the watercraft, the mules, the street bikes, right? I mean, so you have a broader understanding, which I think probably helps in electronics and.
Oh, for sure, like electrical systems. Then you also got to learn like things like I believe it's called like dealer tech or whatever, how to be a parts representative at a dealer and things like that. How to work at a dealership, how to work flat rate, it's literally
the business part of it as well.
Most of the people going there are going to work in a dealership.
Now, when you finished, what was your next plan? What were you thinking?
Before I even finished school, I was on social media messaging privateer riders.
Okay, so you thought that, hey, I want to be a mechanic.
I knew when I went in, I wanted to be a race mechanic. I wanted to, growing up near Millville, that was our closest race. watching it, just the smells, the seeing the mechanics. Like I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
And that's an amazing place. So how far drive was that for you guys? That's
Millvale's 8 hours south of us.
closest.
Yeah.
He's excited. So did you guys go there quite a bit as a teenager? You'd go to the race?
You would go when we got a little bit older. Our parents would let us go by ourselves.
Okay.
That was
Drove.
big.
You drove every time?
Yep. Yeah.
And you guys
Well,
camp in the parking
they
lot?
make these other types of transportation you can take that will get you there a lot quicker.
Yeah, we had to bring motorcycles for amateur
Okay,
day.
all right.
Oh, nice.
I did amateur day there once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
beautiful.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did it at Washougal too.
Oh, Millville. It's been my dream to ride it.
I did Millville and
the
Washougal.
problem is I'd want to ride Millville on a private day with just me and Spencer and Donnie.
Yeah, it's
I want it
gnarly.
smooth, dude. I want it all smooth, and I want just us three.
He wants to do the GoPro lap for the TV
Oh, yeah.
broadcast. Like, when they go out there and the track's like just
And then
prepped.
Southwick's the other one. I want to do Southwick smooth.
And cold.
Smooth. Oh yeah.
too hot there.
Yeah. No, yeah, like in June, like in early June,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
8 a.m. in the
in
morning.
May.
Yep.
When
First
I was at
practice.
Or in the fall.
When I was at Dirt Rider, contributing Dirt Rider, they set me up with bikes and stuff.
Oh,
So
that's
I just flew there, and I got a loaner bike both there and at Washougal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that because I've always thought that track would be fun to.
Yeah,
because I've been there a few times.
Where Washougal?
No, to Millville too,
yeah.
and Millville I thought would just be
I
if it was
stalled in the
smooth.
sand whoops.
Yeah,
I did.
if it was smooth, I would just love it. So anyway, so now you're messaging guys. How did it go from there? People are thinking you're a creeper, or they're just like, are they stoked to get somebody that'll work cheap?
No, for sure they're thinking I'm a creeper. Absolutely. And probably the way that I sent the message was probably I sounded so desperate at the time, I'm sure.
Because now you're looking back at it, right?
Absolutely, yep. And just being in the industry.
Full sliding into DMs.
Absolutely. Like parents, like, hey, does your son need a mechanic? Like, I don't
man.
know what I'm doing, but let me trust me with him, please.
I'll drive him around
I
for
can
you.
take your boy to
Yeah.
track. I want to take care of your little boy.
Yeah, I can change a tire.
He's
All
gonna
right.
be the next big thing.
So and then I got a bite from a kid in Roosevelt, Utah.
Okay.
Bracken Hall.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So worked for them my first year.
Okay.
That was 2000. I graduated high school 2010. I think I worked for him end of 2011.
Can I ask you what you made?
what I made for him?
Yeah.
I was actually at the time very, very happy. I think I was getting paid $750 a week. They had a beautiful facility, track, everything there. I lived on the property. I had no overhead.
Yeah,
That's unusual.
no,
man.
in that place, I've seen some drone stuff
I've
of
seen
that
it there, too.
facility.
Yes, it's unreal.
It's gorgeous, right? Where is that at in Utah?
That's in Roosevelt, Utah, which is
about
about
the 80.
Yeah.
3 hours north of Salt Lake.
Yeah.
North.
You go to the right.
Yeah,
northeast.
beautiful, like
Yeah,
near like
east, right.
Flaming Gorge area.
Insane.
Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you worked for him for a year.
I worked for him for a year. Yep.
So straight out of MMI.
Straight out of
you go there,
MMI.
you're like, I'm not going back to North Dakota.
Nope. Had no clue what I was doing for this guy. And they were at the point where they were well off enough to where we got to, we had a semi. We went to every single race.
Yeah, Rocky Mountain sponsored him.
I remember that deal.
You know,
Yep. At that time, it was High Desert Services. His dad's, he does frac heating for oil company.
Okay, oh, cool.
So at that time, it was solely him, Landon Powell Road
Yeah.
for that team as well. But yeah, we got to go to every single race, set up the semi. You got the full experience as your first job. Like it was, looking back, you couldn't ask for a better first.
Yeah, you didn't have to struggle on a broken down van
no.
on the road with, not
And
enough money.
honestly, a factory team would go, "Wow, you already have similar experience with the truck and dealing with
absolutely.
that." Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep, parts, we had no shortage of parts. We actually got all of our stuff through Temecula Motorsports. So I spoke to them, every day. They just send it to you. And
Awesome. So you worked, and then what was next after that?
man, that
For a year?
That was for a year. Yep, we did that whole season. After that, it was a little bit washy. I lived and worked for Kyle Partridge for a little bit.
Yeah.
That was very brief. The privateer years, you're kind of bouncing around a bit.
And if they get hurt, or if then it's over.
Yep, you're typically out work.
Done.
So yeah, I work.
Yeah, you don't keep getting paid while privateer supercross guys at home.
Are you sofa surfing at that time?
Absolutely sofa surfing. I shared a room. Kyle Partridge's son Landon. I shared a room with Landon when he was there and not there. I would sleep in his bed. That's where I lived. And at that time we lived in Vegas.
Yeah.
So I came from Utah, worked my way west, lived in Vegas for a little bit with Kyle. He was he didn't really at that time didn't really have a big ride or anything. Hart and Huntington days I think had just ended.
Yeah.
Lived with Kyle, and then Kyle kind of wanted to move to California, so I was like, hey, can I come with you? Live on your couch there? Like, I'll help pay rent. So we moved to Lake Elsinore. He kind of stopped riding altogether. Then I got a job with Austin Politelli for HRT, Hansen Race Team.
Okay. That's before Monster.
Yeah, this is probably 5 years before Monster.
Yeah.
Worked with him. We had some.
What year do you think that was?
I think that was a 2013 season.
Nice.
Yep, we had some great races. We got fourth against like Marvin. I don't know who else would have been in the class at that time, but just the fact that we were making night shows and in the main event to me was a win.
That's cool. So being down there, that was rad. And then what was next?
After him, I believe I went to Josh Hansen. There was a Moto Concepts time in there too that I was with Brady Kiesel for a little bit, but that kind of fizzled out.
Hey, and just so you know, this is okay that it's sounding like you worked for a ton of different people.
Absolutely, I'm completely fine with it.
Because I want people to know too, because I get hit up by a lot of people, younger guys, especially kids, wanting to get into this. And Donnie knows it's like, well, I call it myself a dream crusher, because I tell them right away. I go, hey, it's really tough. You don't make a lot of money, and it's really hard to get connected to the right situation. But it can be good. I go, but there are a lot of things have to go your way. And
Absolutely.
And if you don't have thick skin and are willing to sleep on the couch, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's like trying to be an actor. It's like you're a food server and you're still trying to do it and you're trying to make money in all these different ways. As long as you keep grinding it out, eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Persistent.
So what would you guess before you got on with, because then you eventually hook up with Lieb.
Yeah,
right? That's when I met you. Yeah, okay. Yep. So then you get kind of a little bit of a stable thing, and there you're helping with Lieb's racing, but also with Rocket a little bit, right? You learn a little bit of that.
Yep, I learned a lot about that.
Okay, so you do that, and that's when I kind of met you, and you were. I realized right away that he's pretty sharp. I'm learning a lot.
I met you at Don's shop.
Oh, okay.
Over there.
Yeah.
I picked up something, and I remember you. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I worked for Lieb for 3 years. I don't even remember the years of that.
Yeah.
But that was huge learning too, because we were building. That's when I got introduced to building engines.
Yeah.
So I was on the dyno as with some guys, Josh Pitts, with electronics and fuel, all like.
Because you had a dyno there, and you guys were actually changing. You're testing cams and different things, right?
Yep.
And trying to make
a lot.
That, so you learned a lot there, and that's when I met you, when maybe they were backing off a little bit from the shop and stuff, and I met him, and then he actually worked with us for just a little bit, a few days, and then you got into a really good job.
I think after
when you went to PC, I think, right?
Before that, I went to Cycle Trader.
Okay, to the team.
Yes, yeah. Cycle Trader, Rock River, Yamaha, yep, which was
and I'm like, okay, fine, you can leave. I only had like 2 days a week to work,
Yeah, that's right.
So Spencer wasn't much help then. I think he was, if he was around.
He was gone.
I was like 12.
Yeah.
I was young.
So no, this would have been like
not that long.
You would have been like late high school.
But in late high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's
so
long.
So anyway,
Spencer doesn't remember how old he is.
No.
I'm
14
now.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you do that Cycle Trader, and then and you do that how long? Cycle Trader team.
1 season.
And then what's next?
Then I went to PC.
So and that was how cool was that to get in there?
Oh, it was unreal. There was a time after Cycle Trader, I almost moved back to North Dakota and I brought my wife with there. I had an interview at Polaris. I was going to do some snowmobile stuff. some test riding, and I brought my wife there, did the interview. She drove around the city, or the town. It ain't a city.
Where Polaris is?
Yep, Roselle, Minnesota, for 20 minutes, and she's like, I don't think I can do this.
Where's your wife from?
She's from Temecula.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, I met her down here at a gas station.
Nice. And so you married her in between of bouncing around these. Were you like
I met her very early on, 2012 with Kyle Partridge.
Okay.
Yep. So she'd been through all of it with me.
All right. Cool.
But yeah, so I went to Cycle Trader. Then 2017 season, I got the opportunity to go to Pro Circuit. I was never gonna pass that up, so I signed the papers the next day and started there from 17.
And who are you working for?
I started there with Martin Davalos.
Nice.
2018, we had a great season going.
Yeah.
Crashed in the first corner, broke his neck. 2019 with Martin, and then 2021, 22 with McAdoo.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so a lot of good experience there. So you learned a ton, right?
Yes, I learned a ton there.
Because you got to do everything.
You build your engines, you time your cams, you measure your piston, crank, squish, you do everything. You learn all that to do there.
And I'm a McAdoo fan. I'm from Iowa as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't know. With race teams, there's different. Like you talked about PC, he would do all of his own engine setup. Mm-hmm. And setting up all that, where a lot of the teams, and we'll talk about where he's at now, but some of the teams, the mechanic will just put the engine in and be working. They're not actually having to set up as much. So there's different levels at each team because they have more staff.
Yes,
I mean, they have.
absolutely.
So that's be more budget, right? So you're spending more. Yep. They can afford to have dedicated engine-only guys, which I have one of those buddies that we'll bring in here in the future that does just engines at one of those teams. So. So when you decided, hey, how did this opportunity come up for your next one? After you
for KTM after Pro Circuit, going back to like grinding it out as a privateer mechanic for a while, like the longer that our community is so small, and the longer that you do that, and you look professional, act professional, are on time, the more people are going to notice you. And I was at PC for those 5 years. And it kind of at this point in my career, this is my 12th, 13th year doing it, stuff kind of just starts to fall.
So like you don't have to go hit up.
No,
you're not pulling Roger
really,
aside and saying, hey, somebody hits you up from there. Somebody on the team hits you up, right?
Yep, looking for somebody reliable.
Right.
And it's I hate to say it, but nowadays it's a little bit more slim pickings than back when.
No, I agree. It's hard to find, especially
Carlos and all.
Guys who want to work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, it kind of just fell into my lap one day to work for Marvin.
How happy was your wife to stay in the area?
Oh, she was stoked. Yeah, she was like meeting the ladies at the coffee shops and like, I think I'm gonna move here when we were back north, and she was very relieved when she got to stay here because her family's here as well. So,
so you started working for Marvin. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I started working for Marvin. I live just in Canyon Hills, so it was a super super close commute.
Yep.
At KTM, you're an employee of the company. Just the way that life was going, expanding our family, it was just the mature decision to go to KTM. And I haven't looked back since.
That's
It's
cool.
only been about a year there, so a little over a year.
And what's your role now? Because a lot of people don't know that there's what your role, that this role even exists.
Yeah,
so it's kind of cool.
So now I'm a test mechanic, test R&D, help Carlos out with odds and ends. A lot of people ask us what we do at the shop all day, like it's just one dirt bike, but there is so many more pieces. Building wheels, ordering parts. We have a test rider, Ryan Morris, so you're always at the track 3 days a week with him testing and developing specs for suspension or reliability testing. Or
is this race parts or is this
is all
production?
For racing, yes.
Okay.
No, the production's a different department.
Yeah, so what's cool is in the old days they didn't have and most most of the teams, like Honda has Trey Canard, right? Kawasaki is Tickle.
Tickle, yep.
Yeah. So, and Tedesco was helping Pro Circuit before he's at Triumph, right? Sir. Helping. So they most of them all have a test rider who's usually a fairly, like in his early to mid 30s, right? Like still a really good rider who can know how those fast guys want their bike set up and can rough out testing a bunch of parts.
Yes.
Save a bunch of time. So you don't bring in your number one guy to go, hey, we need you to test. And that's what used to happen. They would sit there with their number one guy, and he's not getting his proper training in, and he's just having to test parts all day. He's bummed.
Yep.
And also, for whatever it's worth, if you have a problem, it's better to have the test rider.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it's sad, but it's not your. So
test rider guys like the guinea pig.
Testing an ultralight chain.
Yeah, see if this works.
some different pistons and cams and different things. So those bikes. So we saw what Ryan Morris has. He's out there testing all the time. Somebody's got to build that bike, switch out the engine, and all that kind of stuff.
It's funny because when you hear McGrath talk about, he was doing all the like production testing, like back in the day. And it's like you're saying, how sketchy is that to have your number one guy out there testing parts that are basically unproven at this point?
So it's really neat that he's able to do this. And so you look like you're in a good situation there. Like you said, it's like a family over there as far as now you're an employee. And I joke around. I said this when Jade was here. And I've said this a few times, 10 years ago would be, 14? Yeah, I would have bet you money I would never own KTMs.
Oh, for sure, right?
Right. And now I have a grip.
Yes.
We got one sitting behind. It's a Husky version, but I got one dual sport sitting behind Donnie right now. And the bikes are awesome. From like 17 on, especially, the bikes are just incredible.
You can't tell if I'm a fan or not.
No, not at all. I saw that when I walked in.
Yeah, he's got 4 right there.
Not even slightly.
Right. So it's just totally changed. What happened there is it's really cool, because I think also what it did is it helped a lot of the Japanese manufacturers, step up and realize, and hopefully it continues. And it helped. We got Ducati and Triumph jumping in.
Yep.
I don't know if they would have jumped in if they hadn't seen the success that KTM had. Right.
Well, Ducati for sure jumped in because of KTM.
Right.
Yeah, we know that for sure.
Yeah, they didn't like them going to MotoGP. And last week their gas, which would be the KTM, the young rookie got second or third. He did really good. Yeah, got on the podium, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, so now we'll get back to some more stuff with you, but now we're going to take a few questions. So I answer a lot of questions. Now these questions are, Spencer, you're going to start us off? So
I'll start us off.
These are all questions I get emailed. So guys can email us questions at any time, and we answer them. That's the main part of our tech podcast here.
Yes. So all right, first question is from Wyatt C. Yes, what is the best way to clean a complete wire harness, and what's the best way to clean a throttle body?
Okay, he has both. And so I'm going to turn some of this over to you on this one. Okay.
Problem.
So what would you think? Now, first of all, say it's on the bike, you take the tank off and it's on the bike. Let's get your opinion on that first.
Yeah. So if I was going to clean, say, a wire harness on the bike, I'd take the gas tank off, like you just stated. I wouldn't add any water to it. I would hand clean it with things such as I like to use Cinch. It's a non-ammonia based cleaner. So ammonia is really good for corrosion, which we don't want. So I would use a small knuckle brush that you can purchase anywhere, and spray the cleaner, and honestly just scrub gently in your connectors. Some light compressed air, not to damage any of the rubber seals on the inside. This is how I wash my wire harness on my race bikes as well.
And then that Cinch, so we use glass cleaner sometimes. Does that that has ammonia in it?
Yeah, it does, but
and I'm not hitting the connectors themselves. I'm talking about mainly the the harness part.
Yeah.
How do you inspect for corrosion, like on connections of a wire harness like that?
Typically, the corrosion you can see there'll be if you look in there'll be a green tint.
Yeah, we got a question on that coming up with a photo.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We do have one of those coming up.
Yeah.
Similar.
Should I answer it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There'll be a green tint in there. If you look in the connector, it should be a brass color. But if you see a green hue or tint anywhere on the connector, there's definitely been corrosion. And that connector is...
So then what would you guys do? Would you completely remove the entire wire harness?
Being on a factory team, we would cut it up and throw it away so nobody else could potentially grab it and have a failure. Being on say my personal bike, I'd scrub it really well. Some people don't like dielectric grease because it's conductive, but I would probably put a little dielectric grease in that connector to help complete the connection, and that's all.
Yeah, and we're back and forth on that dielectrical grease. So on the watercraft, we always would run it. You kind of have to, we'd do so much, special.
Seal.
Yeah, but on the dirt bikes, it's like we tend not to use it until it's older or it has a problem. So that answers like my thoughts on that. And as far as the throttle body, external part of the throttle, let's say not cleaning internally, not taking the injector off, but the external part of the throttle body, say he's got because with the tanks on there, a lot of times it's all. They haven't been able to power wash up in there good. What would you do there?
Yeah, if I had the tank removed, I would probably power wash underneath there. Since the throttle body is sealed, the TPS on the side's sealed, map sensors all sealed. I would pressure wash. I wouldn't get close with the nozzle.
Yeah, you're not right next to it.
You're going to want to keep it away and maybe, a soft bristle brush to scrub it. That's if everything's sealed on the throttle body. Now, if it's not sealed, you're not going to want to spray water. If it gets in the map sensor or in there, your bike's going to potentially have a failure down the road.
Right. And we see that. We do see that where, especially in the new generation bikes and like some of the KTMs, we've seen some water issues where it's getting into the map sensor or even to the start-stop switch as well. So that's something to always watch for. All right, Spence, what do you got next for us?
Donnie's got our next question.
Oh, yeah. Ryan K. Hey, Jay. Hello from Star, Idaho. The new Moto podcast is awesome, and keep the episodes coming.
So this guy's smart.
Real smart. Yeah. It'd be safe to say that you're the tire dude based on your experience and all the content you've created. My question is, on the sidewall of most tires, there's a color dot ring, yellow and red. What is the purpose, or what does it mean? Love to hear your insight.
Okay, so it's really a pretty simple answer. That's the lightest spot on the tire. So when they manufacture the tire, with Dunlop, they put a little yellow dot or circle. And the manufacturers, they'll typically line it up with the rim lock or the valve stem. On a dirt bike, it really doesn't matter. And, the rim's a little bent. You got a clunk of mud, your first little thing out there, you're never going to feel that. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. If I'm trying to mount it and be very meticulous and professional, I'm going to put it in the correct spot so you can visually see, because we'll get a lot of grief about it. But yeah, you go around, you touch the dirt once and the tire's off balance.
So how would they determine that's the lightest spot, number one? And do they make it on purpose?
They must spin it.
Yeah.
They must spin it and have
a balance.
Yeah, they have to have a machine. And my guess is it's part of a quality. I haven't been to the factory, but when the tires are coming off, they have a way to spin it, and they're probably doing a quality check to make sure that nothing's, because I'm guessing in the mold something could be, and that tire could be defective. They would toss it, if it was. So at that same time, I'm guessing they put that dot on there. Hey, but one way to, if someone doesn't like that your dot is in the wrong spot, just a little contact cleaner and a rag, and no one knows where that it's gone.
There's no dots.
There's no dot anymore.
So that's how we solve it many times.
Yep.
All right, Spence, what's next?
Eric G. He adds some photo. This is the wire harness one. This is the starter.
That button. So we have a photo. Go ahead and say what's his name?
So what would he ask? What would you do in this situation? Do I repair or buy a complete new wire harness? And then for those listening, it's a KTM starter switch plug.
Okay, so especially that 17 back there, these older generation KTMs before the new generation, the 23, 24, where the plug is, it's a white 3-prong plug.
Okay, yeah.
And they would always rot out, and so it's a good idea also to prevent this in the future. That is one I would put dielectric grease in and take it off and blow it off after washings, every once in a while, so it doesn't ever build up corrosion in there. But as you can see in this photo, it's totally all green in there, just as Kyle said. And unfortunately, it broke the wire in the harness side. So when we had this happen, there's two things you can do. Now, first of all, you don't need to buy a whole new wire harness, as Kyle said. If you were in a factory team and you had a harness, you could just go pull out of the drawer.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Okay, I can put a new harness in. But at the end of the day, most of us aren't going to. Where it's going to become a problem is when you need to swap out your starter button again. But we just hardwire them in.
Yes.
So that's what you would do, right? If it was your own bike?
If it was my own, I would add my own connector, and it'd be just fine.
So you can either just hardwire it together, or you can actually put a connector on each of the. There's only 2 wires. One of them doesn't do any of that black one. So you put the 2 wires together with a spade connectors, with bullet connectors, it's something like that, and you're good to go. and we even hardwired one in when we didn't have any connectors and soldered it.
It's just fine.
And taped it up. And I think it's still going. No one's
A lot of people are afraid to do that kind of stuff. They're like,
That
"Oh,
one's
I'm going to
pretty-
damage something." It's like
that one's pretty basic. And the
You
only
want to
time,
go ride?
yeah. And then when you say your starter switch, you broke it in a crash or something, to change it out, you would then have to go add plugs and stuff, which would be a hassle. But it's a whole lot cheaper than buying a new harness.
Are all the factory guys running a number 2 starter button?
Oh, you're talking about the two.
Yeah.
Like the new generation, or one on each side?
No, yet, or like you see, like they place them underneath.
Oh,
There's
the
like-
extra starter button.
The extra starter button.
Yeah, do most of the teams have?
We're not running one at
Okay.
KTM. No.
Okay.
But some of the teams, Gas runs one. I'm not sure about
It seems like a lot of. I mean, it just seems like to me, it's adding something that I don't know. That's
Something else that could fail.
Yeah, so what he's
Sure.
talking about is if you broke your starter button off in a first turn crash, if it broke off and you couldn't hit it, then there's one usually on the frame,
Yep.
but on the exhaust
Underneath.
side or underneath somewhere you could go hit a button. To me, you're adding something to it. I don't know that it's necessary. And if you, I feel like also if you crash typically hard enough to break a starter button,
Yeah.
it might not be the best night anyway, right?
No, for sure. I mean, do you guys recall, I don't know how many years ago, was it Kenny on Honda? He DNF'd Monster Cup, I believe.
Yep.
Because
in
of that?
Vegas, broke his starter button, couldn't get his bike going.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if he could have got going, you could have worked up to top 10 for sure, right?
At least. And to bump start an electric start bike, you have to have the start button depressed on most manufacturers to get it going. So they couldn't even bump start it. So that's the only case I've ever seen of it
Yeah.
happening. But yeah, it adds a whole extra. If that button shorts out and it's past your relay or before your relay, what does it do to your fuses? Then does it blow a fuse? Your regular start button doesn't work. There's a whole.
Hey, I'm not trying to get in trouble, but how about last weekend Chase stalling the bike 3 times?
Oh, now you're trying to get me in trouble.
That was crazy.
In the last interview, he did say his rear brake pedal had bent.
Yeah, he did hit a tough block in the rhythm section before the whoops, and it was quite damaged. And it was up high as well from that.
Oh,
And you guys don't run a brake snake, right?
We do, but sometimes those hits can
You're right.
they can rip the even.
So you guys have a cable on there.
Yeah, we have a brake snake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you guys did or not. And I just always never liked the hassle of having one on there because I'm like, was it really going to do much? But also, I'm not
Right.
racing at that level where you can't
right.
afford a DNF. But if he's hitting that rear brake extra at all from that thing, that would be that. I think that would be that
if
one.
you bend a brake lever, you're just laying
Jay's
the bike
brake-
over and standing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jay's brake is-
absolutely. Uh-huh.
All right, what do you guys got next?
Awesome. Austin D says, "Hi Jay, I'm looking for some advice on a plastic tank repair. Unfortunately, I have a bad crack in my tank on a YZ125. I was curious to know if you have a go-to method on patching or repairing a tank. I gotta spend a few $100 on a new one. Also, great content. I appreciate all the info, tips, and tricks."
So this is a good, easy, quick answer.
I know this.
The answer is you got to buy a new one.
You gotta buy a new tank.
or a used one, but you got to get another tank. Unfortunately, and I wrote him back, and unfortunately, you got to get on eBay if you want to try to get a used one. But there's no fixing. And what's funny story is I have a 1987 YZ250 that I bought for $300. Okay, I was thinking of doing a project with it, but right now the tank is cracked fully.
Oh.
So there's no fixing it, right? And there's no fixing a plastic tank. And if you try, I just worry you're going to put yourself in danger. Don't even bother trying. It's not worth fixing. Okay, so that answers that. But this bike, the only tank available that I can find is a huge desert tank.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I want to fix it up as a motocross bike, if I'm going to do a story with it. So now I'm thinking of just selling the bike. I don't want to deal with it. And in the used tanks I'm seeing on eBay, look like the tank's going to crack by the time it gets to my
Quite
house.
beat up.
Yeah, they all look, and so it must be a problem with those bikes. So that's one reason I haven't messed with that. So
Nice.
what do we got, Donnie? Then we'll
John
do
P.
product spotlight after.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do it after. John P. Have you done a video on mapping for a 450? I have a 2018 YZ450, and I'm trying to figure out a map to get the power lower to get it as close as I can to a 350. I don't want to get rid of the bike because I love Yamaha.
Yes, and we love Yamahas too. And if Yamaha made a YZ350, I think we'd be on board, right? I love the YZ250F I have. It's awesome. Stock suspension on a Yamaha is really good. I mean, they're good. So I love them, but unfortunately they don't have a 350. And to make a 450 slower is just really tough. I get that question a lot. Even Kiefer, I've talked to him about it. The problem is then you just have a big, heavy, lazy bike that's just slower. So, and it still has that engine braking. It still has that heavy feel. It's going to be difficult to make it feel good, right?
Yeah, with crank weights and
right. You can just let off the throttle a little bit.
Right. You'd be better off with a big bore 250.
Yeah.
I feel like if you really wanted to do that, than trying to downsize. Because originally, guys were talking about downsizing their 450s into 400s or something. But I just think, unfortunately, it's not worth it. And we love the 350 KTMs, and give and take. I would tell this guy, hey, try to find a 17 and up 350, and you just have to invest in some forks if you're not happy with the air forks. And that's kind of been our theory on the 350.
He can do a custom mount if he wants and pull a 350 motor out and jam it. I feel like those YZs, they feel heavy to me, the 450s.
Yeah, well, the new generation one is a lot better feeling.
It is better.
I will say that.
But that 2018
yeah,
is a little bit
big
behind
bike.
the 8.
Yeah, but
For
they're
sure,
good.
A lot of bike.
Product spotlight.
Oh, product spotlight. Sorry.
Product spotlight. Okay,
Yes.
we're going to talk about. We always talk about a product, but this week we're going to talk about how cool does this look.
that is cool.
Do you know what these rims are off of? You see this shape right here?
Yeah, but they're coming. We've tried them recently.
Oh, you've seen some recently?
Well, yeah, a little bit of like
Because this
what is it called?
We call them moon rims, or they're what do they call it? Ledgeless, or
Were those off Cowies?
this is off a 2000 KX125.
Wow.
And Kawasaki had these stock on like 2001 range.
Yeah.
KX125 and 250s. I think they only did it a couple years. People are going to let us know in the comments how many years they did it. And they only did it a couple years. And so we thought, since this bike that I just redid, the rims weren't in bad shape, as you can see.
Oh,
and
great.
so I got this company, Illuminart, up in Ontario area. They polish these things out like a mirror. I got some photos we can put in of these things polished out. So he's got to polish them before he does the anodize on these things. And as you can see, it looks amazing. For those that can't see that are listening to the podcast, it's the purple that we've seen on like the Yamaha's racing and stuff, but I just think it even looks better. This ultraviolet H3D.
It almost looks too good to ride with it.
I would have guessed it was a brand new rim.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
That's a 24-year-old rim.
I would have guessed it was brand new.
and the rear just looks just as good.
The
too.
rear looks just as good. Yeah,
and
it's
this
awesome.
front, hey, you want to know something fun about this front? So before we took the spokes off, it had one little crack at the seam. A tiny crack. So I put on this one, we actually just left it.
We left the spokes on.
And I took it to my welder buddy. We welded it, blended it in. You can't even see it. And it was on the front, right?
Yeah, it's on the front. It's on that
the front.
wheel.
You can't even see the spot.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
Barely.
So, and it wasn't cracked on both sides. It was just one side. It was a tiny one at the seam. So, and we've done this on vintage bikes. We welded it and boom, and it came out amazing. And the reason we kind of went through the hassle and expense of doing this is that it's just, I feel like it's going to look really cool long term. And there's no, on a lot of these older builds we do, these 90s and 2000 builds, there's not wheels. You can just go buy a wheel set. Okay. So we got the stock hubs here, and we just took them apart and we put new bearings in from Pro X, and then we got the Sano metal finishing is the one that blasted it for us and Cerakoted it. So we got the Cerakoted hub, and it looks like brand new, and will work just fine. So now these are on their way today. We're actually gonna. This is why I had them in my van. We're going over to Faster USA, and Colin's gonna lace these up with some brand new spokes. That we're gonna get those things laced up. So it's a great option for guys is to fix up old wheels. You don't have to anodize your rims. You can just buy some rims from Rocky Mountain or whoever. You can just buy some rims and lace up new ones with your. If you know how to do it, or you can have a buddy do it, but you can fix up your old wheels pretty inexpensively, let's say, compared to buying a brand new set of high-end wheels, and be just fine. So that's a great. It's gonna be really cool in our build, and so it changed the plastic in this thing's gray, and so we're gonna have purple now in the graphics. This all came about last minute because the purple's so popular right now. So we're gonna have purple in the graphics and the seat cover and all that. And
that wheel looks unbelievable.
Yeah,
No, it looks.
Purple Rain, we're going to call this thing. All right. So anyway, really cool product spotlight for you guys. What do you got next?
All right. Ken T says, thanks, Jay, for all the YouTube content. At 38 years old, I finally get to live my childhood dream of owning and riding a dirt bike.
Yeah.
I've changed tires before, but seeing your stand design and being able to stand up definitely helps the back. It'd be great info if you can send it to me.
Okay, so again, we've talked about this, but we send them the tire stand drawings. We have an email that we send everybody that has all the info and a bunch of links. We've had people who've made videos showing how to cut all the material out, and to weld it up. And we talk about if you're taller, how to set the heights. So that's been real popular. So, and it's also really cool that this guy's 38 years old and now getting into riding. Every week I get emails from guys who they maybe rode a little bit as a kid and they get back into it in their 40s or 50s. And so I always tell them, just don't let it happen again and keep on riding, right? So, and Kyle keeps on riding too. A lot of the mechanics don't. He's riding a dual sport, plenty too, to still keep in it. So he's got a dual sport to ride and is keeping in. I tell these guys, be careful, because before you know it, you'll stop riding totally and you get really fat.
Won't start again.
Yeah, what do I say? You don't see a mailman walking on his day off.
No.
All right, what do we got next?
Yeah, Rob M. I have a 2023 KTM 350 SXF. I live close to Redbud, and I parked next to a guy that took his front forks off his YZ250F and put him on his Husky 350 with shims. He said it works great. Have you heard of this? And what's your recommendation if I want to get rid of my air forks?
Okay, so I told this guy nicely, though. I didn't say it.
You didn't crush the dream?
His buddy's smoking some funny bud there by Redbud, because you can't just throw them on. Okay, it's not that simple. It really isn't. And we've had a lot of KTMs, and we're not huge fans of air forks. We prefer, and I know the race team probably doesn't run a whole lot of air forks, so we don't. But we like spring forks, mainly because it just feels like everything else we're used to riding. And I feel like air forks work good when I go to these test days and the media guys, and there's different suspension guys out there, and they're babysitting it the whole day. It feels a lot better.
Yeah.
You need one of those guys with you all the time.
Full time.
Yeah.
Full time. And then he could also help me get dressed and undressed.
Yeah.
My problem is also when I'm really tired getting undressed in the van, I'm like, oh. Okay. So that's the ticket. So now as far as switching, we've told guys there's many options. A low cost WP has a 6500 kit to switch into that bike, to those forks, make it awesome. That's great. KYB has a kit through Technical Touch.
Both of these bikes, one has KYB and the other one has the single spring.
Yep, and then the Race Tech single spring we have in one of your bikes, and that is awesome. That's half the money of the other kits, and I think it's 90%, 95%.
It's almost as good as the KYB.
Yeah, it feels so good when we're on the for being our level of riders, we can hardly tell the difference. I think it depends on how well each one's set up for us, but I think that's a great option, and it's like I said, it's like half the price. Where most spring conversions, you're anywhere from, depending upon who's setting it up, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000.
Not to mention, this guy is basically using two bikes to make one,
right?
Instead of just a set of forks.
Yeah. And there were guys like in 17, 18 and stuff that were getting YZ forks, pulling all the internals out of the YZ forks, putting them in with some adapters and stuff to make it work. It was a lot involved, but they were making it work.
I remember riding one of those bikes.
Yeah, Kelly had done some, and so it was a lot of work to make it happen, but they were doing it, and so anyway, can't just throw them on. You can't just throw on other forks on YZ forks on your KTM.
I saw Lassie had for sale some A-kit forks.
Yeah.
I was like,
all right, we'll do last question. This is from Ralph G. Says, how's it going, Jay? I know I just hit you up about my new KX 450. I didn't get to ride it yet. Oh. I am just making a list of things I want to do when I get back home from overseas.
He made a sad face.
Yes, I a sad face that he didn't get to ride his brand new 24.
I'm just saying you didn't express the sad
I'm sorry, yeah.
All right.
It was in the tone.
Okay.
So he's getting back from overseas, and he's curious if you knew of some good techniques or products or materials that he could use to polish some of the sections of the frame that are visible, and possibly the swing arm. I was looking over the Whiskey Throttle breakdown of Jason Anderson's bike that's polished, and it looks amazing.
Okay. And so that's why I got that question in there for this week. I got Kyle here. And now he doesn't work with the aluminum frame bikes right now, but he has in the past worked with some aluminum frame bikes. So we can get your thoughts on what would you do, and then tell us the pros and cons once you start polishing. Yeah, because once you start, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So when I build a bike, I don't like the chrome look in a bike. Say I like. We would just call it maybe Sano, really clean.
Yeah.
So I start with. There's definitely a lot of elbow grease involved, but there's multiple stages of Scotch-Brite, and I'm going to start with a quite coarse Scotch-Brite.
It's more the gray one.
Yeah, I start with a red, and I like to get a Scotch-Brite it has Pro after it, so you can get a 7448 Pro, which is gray, and that is fine. It's a little more on the expensive side, but it gets your aluminum with nice, clean lines in it. Nothing that looks funny, no scratch-looking marks in it.
When you were at that other team, did they go, this is your Scotch Brite budget?
No, we didn't have that at all.
So, would you use anything with it? Any polish or anything like that with it, or cleaners while you're doing it?
I didn't like to use any polish, but I did like to wrap they're called SOS pads or Brillo. They have a type of soap in them that's just really nice on aluminum. I wrap that in my Scotch Brite.
And then do you have any water on it or anything?
Yep. It's very wet. Always wet.
Okay, wet. Okay.
As wet as you don't want it dry, because then you're gonna get some.
You're taking too much.
Yeah, you're gonna get some funny marks in it, and like if you make a little mistake, it's gonna show up a lot. So very wet, always wet. And then at the end, I just go through with a plain Brillo or Scotch Brite. And that's all I do. That's all. Say you look at a Pro Circuit bike now, or a factory Honda, or Jason's bike. That's how they accomplish that.
Okay.
So they never have a polish on it.
They're not using like a Mother's aluminum polish or anything.
No, they're just using an SOS or a Brillo with a lot of elbow grease.
Yeah, and like let's say if you had. Like not week to week, because it's going to be easier after you've done it once. Okay, in between weeks, right, as you re-prep. But if you had a brand new frame and you had it sitting on the bench and you got your water and you got all your stuff, how long would it take you to do one?
To scrub a brand new frame, it's about an hour of constant scrubbing. It's you're going to be tired at the end.
And then from week to week, after you power washed it, you got it apart. Just 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, yep. Depending on the rider, if you run frame protection, that helps a lot with scratches. If you're trying to get the scratches out, you got to start with heavy sandpaper, work your way lighter.
And then how often are you swapping out frames? Because then you have to start this process
For sure,
all over again.
Yeah, no, like on a race bike, you're swapping it out halfway through Supercross, so 9 rounds in, 8 rounds in. Hopefully you've had some spare time at the shop, so you got one on deck. So you're not going through the whole process again that day or on, say, your build day because time's limited. But, swapping them out depending on the rider and their preference, 10 to 30 hours. Race bikes a little bit more often. But, it's starting from scratch. It's about an hour job to get it really nice.
Hey, I just thought of something. Didn't you, I forgot to go over this earlier, but didn't you help this Supercross 450 season? At the beginning rounds?
I did, yep. Yeah. I started this season with, I actually went to one of our sister teams, Gas.
Yeah.
So.
And helped out with Prado.
Yep, I worked for the first 4 rounds with Jorge.
How cool was that?
It was really cool. Jorge is a very smart person. And in all my years, I've got to work with some very big name people. I got like Cooper and Marvin at KTM. And Jorge, he's very smart. He's very calculated. It was very enjoyable to work with him this season.
What are the odds he's going to come here full time?
Well, I think it's pretty.
I think the odds are pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong. Looking.
I don't know anything for sure, but through the grapevine.
Well, you heard him. You talked to him.
No, I know.
I mean, the feeling you got.
Yeah, yep. He loved being in America.
That's cool.
So his whole family was here, right?
Yep,
Everybody.
Yep, everyone.
And he trained in California the whole time.
Yep,
right? He didn't go to Florida.
Time. Nope, always in at our test tracks.
Okay, now I saw him over there a few times, and it was pretty cool. So when we went by there in December, when they had just finished the bike, he had.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I think maybe he just rode a bit, but it was just. It might have even been November.
It was I remember that. Yeah.
And the bike was all ready. And they were talking about it, and I think at that time, I don't know that how optimistic people were that he would survive Supercross.
For sure,
right? Because that's our 450 Supercross. You're coming from Europe. It's like I don't even want to say 50-50. It's like 80%, 90% over the years. It's been proven. If you come over, you're Greg Albertine or even Langston, whoever, you come over and ride Supercross. Even if you're a past champion, it's a tough road, right?
Yeah.
So he did awesome.
Yeah.
Like what was it? He was top 5-6, and he was up front a bunch of races.
Yeah, so, good starts.
Hole shotting.
Yeah.
He knows how to start.
He had the same, like GL would talk to me about how difficult the whoops were. Like coming here and just being straight intimidated the first few times he just had to shift up and go.
Well, he knows how to start, man.
Yeah.
At the GP this last weekend,
I
watched the highlights. He just whole shotted everything.
Yeah,
he doesn't even
by a minute.
Yeah.
I think I watched a little interview with him. I didn't know this was a thing. but his first day on the Supercross track, he was just taking a real slow approach, right? I heard. And they're talking to him. I can't remember who did the interview. They're interviewing him, and he just said, yeah, right now I'm just going backwards on the whoops.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, they started off. I thought that was really
that's
interesting.
really good to learn whoops, to go backwards if somewhere allows you to go backwards.
Right. So that was pretty cool. Like, obviously, you don't want to show up at your track and then ride the track backwards.
Yeah,
This is a private.
It's not a two-way highway.
This is a private test track. And when they said that, I'd never thought of that. But I'm like, well, that's cool. So he can learn how to start going through them there before he
because whoops are built backwards.
They taper down
by the loader, so they're steeper in the front and more.
Yeah.
Of a smoother angle in the back, so if you go backwards you can get more traction and the concept of how to go.
So I thought it was cool that he was trying to learn this, and I thought was really cool is he didn't even bother with this 250 class.
No,
he's like, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna do it for real, and went straight to the 450 class. So I think he proved if he could get if he stays healthy through his whole GP season here, comes out again and can train all fall on Supercross, he should be awesome. So I thought that was really cool. So it's cool. It was pretty cool being down there for the 450 mains. And so,
it's and every single rider was there, no one was out. So
how stoked was he to win that heat race?
Oh, he was he was a little bit bummed it was in the mud, but a win was a win.
No, a win is a win. That's no joke.
No, so he was supposed to only stay here for 3 rounds. Yeah. And then he played rock, paper, scissors with the big bosses at KTM after San Diego because it was kind of a wet race as well.
Yep.
So he never really got to prove all the way. So and he won rock, paper, scissors. He cheated a little bit, I think.
He cheated.
But
he waited
till they put theirs down.
Plus, at San Diego, Pure Mobility had to be happy because AP won that race.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they're like, yeah, whatever, buddy.
Yeah, you go. Stay one more week. Well, I think Argentina was supposed to be canceled, MXGP, because the president. So he said, hey, I'm going to stay one more week and race Supercross. Well, Argentina never got canceled.
Oh.
So he ran it short between those races. Oh. Of testing because he had to go back home and test.
That Argentina race. Look, it's the last time I guess they're going to be at that facility.
Yep.
We watched it and they said, I'm like, no, it's so gorgeous looking. It's that Patagonia area, and it's against this mountain and trees. It's just gorgeous,
beautiful.
Yeah, incredible. So, well, it's been awesome listening to you and learning. And I've learned stuff from this guy when he was working over at our place for a few days. It was awesome. So it was really cool to have and. What's your good advice or best advice for anybody, like say a young, 16 to 20-year-old who's wanting to get into and be a mechanic? I mean, you're saying slim pickings now, so is there a better opportunity if somebody wants to work hard? What are your thoughts?
For sure, better opportunity if someone wants to work hard. And also, I feel like a lot of people, I don't know the correct or polite way to say this, but a lot of egos are really high. So if you just need to mellow out a little bit, and listen, because we're all younger, and we need to listen to the smarter, older people. You're not smarter than them. And, keep your head down and work. Show up on time and look professional. I think that's 90% of what's going to get you where you want to go.
Right, just showing up, doing what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
That old school thoughts.
Absolutely, old school.
Good advice for Spencer there too, right? And all of us in any life. So, all right. So what do we got next? Are we ready for
albums?
What's that?
You can do albums.
CD Spotlight.
Yeah, those are sick.
Are we doing
What's a
these
CD?
other products?
No, this question didn't come up. Did we do the tie down question?
We didn't get to that question. We're at an hour right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll do it next week.
Okay.
We had a tie down question. So we talk about an album every week.
Kyle's gonna be too young for this.
And
a CD.
Not only this, but these are both. One's from 1987.
Wow.
What year were you born?
92.
92.
And one's from 1989. Okay, so this is Great White, really cool band. Got a great sound. Jack Russell's the singer, and just a cool sound. And the other day we put on Jack Russell's Great White because all bands fight. Just like you were talking about egos, the guitarist and the lead singer typically don't get along. Yeah, it usually what breaks up the band. And what's funny is I typically take the singer's side of things because without that lead singer, that doesn't sound the same. Like they bring in a different singer and it's like, it's just not the same. It's not the same, right? So anyway, and sure enough, if you go to Spotify, Jack Russell's Great White, he got some cool stuff, newer stuff that's good. And he also he did a whole tribute album to Led Zeppelin. All the popular Led Zeppelin songs, they sound better than Robert
Really
Plant.
good.
No joke. Like it sounds so good. And he did these in 21, so he's like over 60 years old, singing these Led Zeppelin songs.
Yeah.
They sounded awesome. So anyway, so what's really cool is Great White had a little bit of a like shark theme. They had a little bit, and so it was Once Bitten, Twice Shy. So Once Bitten, I got to put my glasses on here. Yep. So these albums are awesome, and they're just got a really good vibe to them. And so 1987 is Once Bitten, okay, and then you have Twice Shy that came out, and that's kind of a little, what do you call that?
Play on words.
Play on words is. It's been a once bitten, twice shy kind of thing.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you.
Yes, exactly. So great rock and roll. Rock Me, Mr. Bones. They got a bit of a bluesy feel, and they weren't too much into they weren't wearing makeup or any of that kind of stuff. They're just good rock and roll. So 2 good albums to check out. Their stuff a little bit after the next one after this gets a little bit more radio popular, but this old stuff's just awesome. So
yeah, that is a great album.
Yeah, so these are awesome, worth checking out if you get there on your music streaming device, right? You're probably just into the streaming, right?
Absolutely, only streaming.
Got Spotify. What do you use?
Pandora.
Okay.
Pandora. Yeah.
So that's the only way to go nowadays, right? Guys are like, what CD? So,
Yeah.
But we do find it is cool having it in hand and dropping it in the player and just
Sounds different.
yeah, it's just better.
It is.
Yeah. All right. So it's really cool. So really cool time with the show. Thanks, Kyle. We got a good shot. Thanks, Spencer, and to Donnie for getting this done. If you guys are
Wait, you're not going to.
Yeah,
I have a
are you
question.
skipping his question?
oh yeah. Donnie, what's your last question?
Skip me. He's cutting me out.
You
of the
said
show,
we were-
man.
you said we were running
What's
late.
going on there?
Yeah.
The lead singer and the guitarist are fighting.
Yeah, they're fighting. Yeah, they're running late. The only guy that has to worry about if they're running late is me when I'm dealing with the show later. All right, so this is kind of for both of you guys because we're talking about how difficult it is to get into the industry, and obviously you've taken a certain path, Kyle, and Jay, you've found a niche. Well, this isn't a 9-to-5, 5-day-a-week job, right? So each of you kind of average how much time during a full season and when you have a lot of product going on are you spending in the shop working a week? On average, it's like...
So for me, I would say between the shop and then the office.
No, I'm talking about all your business stuff
so the
related
business stuff,
to this.
I would say 50 to 60 hours is a typical week. Now, we do have the advantage of there's weeks where I'm going on a ride trip or gone for 3 or 4 days, right?
But you still have to make up that time.
You do 50, 60 hours a week because I do 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday.
There's
Yeah.
some weeks where he's over 60 for
Yeah.
sure. I think he's underscoring it.
And there's days where we work 12, 13 hours in the shop. But
I mean, he's called me. Hey, can you work till 7 tonight? And
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when you were
Yeah.
up north, I mean, can you come over? We're building a bike, and then I go in there, and there's 4 bikes going, and there's 4 of us working on. Hey, you put on graphics. You put.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I guess I'm over.
In the summertime, he'll work till like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because it's nice and
yeah, when
cool.
when the lights, and I got AC in the shop now, AC
Wow.
and the heater. So
Wow.
it's been huge.
Yeah.
Like,
Big luck.
same
Yeah.
as this one.
Same as that one, yeah.
I got that
Oh,
same
yeah,
unit.
okay.
So it just
When you're old, you don't run uncomfortable.
and at the end of the day, whenever it's a long day, I always go, hey, it's better than digging ditches, and it's not real work. Like it's working on dirt bikes, and whenever anything goes wrong and it's bad, it's like, hey, it's still just dirt bikes.
Absolutely.
So it's just dirt bikes. Your deal's a little bit more pressure as far as the racing side of it. Typically, and the pressure of a failure or a problem that rests on you is pretty high.
Right.
But now your deal is a little bit different now that you're in a secure, regular job, right? But before, when you're privateering it, you didn't have no what do you call those? Like what's those requirements? The California State Board of
Yeah.
Yeah.
no one was checking on your hours
No
and
regulations going on.
and your overtime pay, your
No.
double time, your
Well, when you're 1099, there is no.
Right.
Yeah, you're salary. You're just a salary employee.
Well, God, how much time when you have a pressure situation, you need something done? Like, are you working till 7, 8, 9 o'clock, or do you guys at KTM kind of go, these are the hours and you're done?
KTM is very good at that for your quality of life and your family. They understand that family is important, so they're really good for everybody to tackle that one job and get done in a timely manner. But there are still, when we're going to the races, race day is a 17-hour day. travel day, 14, 15-hour day.
Jay said race day was probably his easiest day, though.
It is your easiest day, because if you're not prepared for that day, then what did you do all week, So hopefully race day's easy, knock on wood, but race day, and then throughout the week, you try to keep it 8, 9, 10 hours. So we probably do every 2 weeks, 140 hours or so. So 70 hours a week. That's with our travel on weekends. So that's looking.
Yeah.
But they allow us.
You guys get a day off.
Yeah, one day off
Wednesdays,
during the week. Yep, before our travel day, which is huge.
Yeah.
So that's 6 days a week. But say a team like Pro Circuit, when you're building engines, you're a 1099. It could be 160, 170 hours a week, or a paper every two weeks.
Yeah, so 80 hours a week.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying people that want to get into this don't realize how much work is involved.
Yeah, it's a lot of time away from family and
getting on with the factory team. It shows you, like you said, you made the big boy decision.
Yep.
I'm gonna get on. It's like getting on with that regular corporate job.
Exactly.
Where, hey, I got on here and everything's by the book, so to speak.
Yep.
Getting overtime, you guys get this, and you're gonna be limited.
A lot of people don't see, fans that aren't even close to the industry, but they ride. They're like, oh my gosh, look at this. They get to do all this, and they get to travel. Look how cool this is. They don't see the hard part of it.
No, for sure. You wake up every Thursday, you're up at 3:30 in the morning to catch your flight. And then you get there late that night, and then you go straight into, say, building your bike. Building your bike takes us 15 hours. So
I will testify that the travel part just sucks.
Yeah.
It's like that's one reason I got out of. I just got so burnt out on traveling.
I used to
that
travel in the 90s a lot too with Dirt Rider.
It was tough. So I when I was going to those, so I enjoy being home, and I love watching the races on TV.
Yeah, me too.
It's way better just to watch them on TV. So we're excited.
Hey, you know what I used to hate was that stupid spider cam that they had, and now they've replaced it with a drone. You see, they have a drone flying. That thing is amazing. I know. I was just.
They gotta have a good drone pilot.
The pilot's unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway,
have you watched the guy in there?
He sits in trackside with a easy up over him through no shadows, and then he has his goggles on.
That's cool.
And he's just cruising.
Like a
video
video game.
If that thing came down at some point on a ride.
Yeah.
Or like when he's flying, he has to avoid the finish line pillar, and he I know he can see it, but like when you're locked in on a rider, like just not straight into it, or they do it at all the outdoors. Washougal has trees everywhere. Dude, they just zip that thing.
So I'm guessing he's have you seen him and like at the Supercross, is he in there practicing before guys are on the track?
Yeah, he flies checks the course of the track to make sure, because Spider Cam does have wires too on the track, make sure nothing's
I didn't like the way it moved because it was always at a certain height.
Spider Cam. Yeah.
And if you notice, the drone is a lot lower than the Spider Cam.
Yeah, he gets close.
A lot of drone pilots will have a camera operator separate from the pilot.
Oscillate the camera and stuff.
Yeah, that happens a lot. But I don't know about in Supercross, but in other things. Anyway, sorry I got off.
Here we go, way off topic. Your other question was really good, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so now everybody knows it's a lot of work.
I'll cut all this out.
So anyway, it's a great show. So we appreciate it, and look forward to more. Good job.
Thank you guys for having me.
And you're going to be doing this for a while, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the rest of my life. I have no other choice. I love it.
You're
locked in now.
And you got a new baby.
Yeah, it's a 6-month-old baby, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations there. And like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you guys next time. See ya. We work with some great companies, and here's a list of those right now. Dunlop Motorcycle Tires, Wiseco Piston, Vinco Air Shocks and Dirt Bike Parts, FMF Exhaust, Decal Works Graphics, Pro X Racing Parts, Recluse Clutch Revolution, Motion Pro Specialty Motorcycle Tools, Works Connection, Uni Filter, Klotz Oil, Cometic Gasket, MX Plastics, JE Pistons, Cardo Systems, ODI Bars and Grips. And remember, if you shop Rocky Mountain, use our link from our site, Linktree, or link in description of the videos. Thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.